founder and CEO of Collegiate Sports Management. He should be hopping on here. There he is. There's Michael. He has over 15 years of experience in broadcast rights and business terms negotiations. He has negotiated over $250 million in sports broadcasting rights. And he's going to be talking to us today about the changing landscape of collegiate athletics. Thank you for being here.
Excellent. Thanks, Leanna. Appreciate it. So Collegiate Sports Management Group, I founded 6.5 years ago as a college sports properties group that really helps colleges and college conferences throughout the country with identifying revenue streams for their respective institutions. And what we found, coming up on 7 years, is that many folks at that level needed to be educated on how to really generate revenue and how to maximize exposure for their respective institution. And so what my team specializes in is any type of revenue generating opportunity for these institutions and the conferences, and really being a full service resource to them. And so what I'm going to talk about a little bit today is there are 3 areas that are really changing in collegiate athletics. Number 1 is esports. Number 2 is sponsorship, licensing, and media are really converging. And I was really interested to hear Nick's perspective prior to me speaking as it relates to the growth and some of the challenges. And so we'll talk a little bit about that on the college front and in the esports front as well. And then the last piece is all over the news right now, which is something called name, image, and likeness. And that's really where the student athletes or student athletes, if they're gamers, can start to monetize their brand recognition and their name. And it's in front of Congress right now. They're going through some things at the state level, some things at the NCAA level that we'll touch on. But those are the 3 areas that are really changing and evolving the college ecosystem right now. So CSMG, as I mentioned, founded almost 7 years ago. We specialize in esports. We specialize in name, image, and likeness. We do a lot in the media rights, strategy, and negotiation world. And so what does that really mean is that we will represent and help our schools and our conferences secure national, international, regional, and local media deals, whether that be on television, whether that be over-the-top television, direct-to-consumer, streaming, audio, mobile. We'll negotiate the rights agreements on behalf of all of our clients, which is over 1,250 right now. We specialize in content creation and distribution. So we help these colleges and conferences become content creators themselves and really push out what content's appropriate to push out. It's not just all about live game content. There's shoulder programming. There's creating segments like a day in the life with a coach or a player. There's behind the scenes footage that some of these schools and institutions want to roll out. And so we help them with content creation and distribution. We have an arm here at CSMG that specializes in licensing and e-commerce, where we'll take some of the assets our partners have and we'll go and monetize them by creating their own website stores. We'll partner with companies like Fanatics and others, helping them create licensing and merchandising businesses for themselves. And we work a lot with the bookstores. We also have a sponsorship sales arm, which goes out and sells any type of asset in stadium, whether that be social media, a logo on a court, an LED sign, the naming rights to a building. We have a full service sponsorship sales team there. We work with ticketing companies and CRM systems to make sure that they're capturing and selling out events that they need to sell out or helping grow their overall attendance and ecosystem. We have an asset audit and valuation team that basically helps companies and schools and conferences identify what their assets are really worth in the marketplace and what their value proposition is. I mentioned naming rights before. We've sold several naming rights buildings to corporate America. And then we have an event production and management arm. So the Esports Vertical, as I mentioned at the top, is one of the areas that continues to change in collegiate athletics. And more colleges are starting to form esports teams, whether that be at the club level or at the varsity level. And a lot of schools are giving out scholarships for esports now, no different than they give out for traditional sports. And so what Collegiate Sports Management Group did was we created a fantastic pipeline from age 11 to 24, 25 by basically aggregating the rights to high schools, junior colleges, and four-year institutions. And what that pipeline allows us to do is create marketing and sponsorship opportunities for the students. It allows us to create player profiles and create the governance structure for competition league-wide and statewide, whether it be through high schools, two-year or four-year colleges. Recruitment is a big piece of this, right? Is that when you look at recruitment from a traditional sports standpoint, you have AAU and you have other means as to how students get looked at and how they get watched to become these high touted recruits for traditional sports. Well, the same thing is going on in esports right now. And so recruitment is a big deal. Career fairs is a big opportunity to showcase these student athletes. We also have a merchandise and e-commerce business, as I mentioned before. But what we've done is we've created this pipeline where we reach over 3,000 institutions, whether that be high schools, two-year colleges, or four-year colleges. And we've created the aggregation of allowing these students the exposure and revenue opportunities through this pipeline. The other thing we did in esports is we created the first college esports national championship event. And what I say the first is that we emulated the March Madness men's and women's basketball tournament style format, and we programmed it into esports. It had never been done before. We were the first company to do it. We'll continue to do it. We own the marks and the logos now. And what that led us to was we had 125 media outlets that covered our championship event, local and national. We had 48 four-year universities that participated. We had 24 two-year universities that participated. We had 8 international teams. We created a tournament selection show that had never been done before, where we announced the brackets and the seedings. We created an event with the NFL Alumni Association. We created a shop where students, families, friends, alumni could go and buy merchandise and buy gear. We created panels where every expert in esports was able to come on and showcase what they're doing and talk about the esports ecosystem. We streamed the tournament on 3 different channels, as well as ESTV, which is esports television. And then we had significant media impressions. We gave away $60,000 in prizing money to the schools so that it could help with their esports ecosystem. We had 10 corporate brands associated with it, and we created name, image, and likeness activations. That had never, ever been done before in collegiate esports. And so my team was really pioneers in the industry as it relates to esports. So we have a pipeline, and then we lead into the annual national championship event. The second thing I mentioned was sponsorship and licensing and media, how they're all converging. And so my team spends a lot of time focused in this area with exclusive content that we create for brand partners. We have inventory like banner ad displays. I mentioned licensing and e-commerce because that's really tied to a company wanting to be a sponsor of X, Y, or Z event that we represent. We can put out social media blasts on any type of social media outlet that there is. We have branding opportunities on the stream. We have logo entitlements and logo placements where we can title sponsor an event that we run. We can put the logo right on the court for a basketball event or right on the field for any other sporting event. We put live brand links on different websites of all the partners that we represent. We create Hall of Fame ceremonies, awards with teams and players that are sponsorable. We allow on-site activation for vendor booths or any type of activation that the client may want. And we also have an opportunity where we put jersey patches on jerseys for logo placement, etc. And so we've really carved out nice sponsorship inventory that our partners help us monetize. The media rights business is changing every day and evolving into what was 1.0, 2.0, which is really now 3.0 of media rights. And so it's all about the intellectual property and the rights holder that controls that property and what that right holder wants to do with that inventory and that content. And so we represent, as I mentioned before, right now it's north of 35 conferences and 1,250 schools, and we are negotiating all of their broadcast rights agreements. And so on the left-hand side, you see some of the conferences that we represent that are in Division One, Division Two, and even Division Three, all the way down into NJCAA, which is the Junior College Association. And on the right-hand side, you see the different logos of the media networks that we do deals with. And so one of the things that we did actually last week, timing is great, is we just signed the largest Division II college media rights agreement in the history of college athletics. No Division II conference had ever gotten a 7-figure deal to put their content on a media network. And so we brokered that agreement with an historically Black college and university conference called the SIAC. And we did the deal with ESPN to showcase their games on linear ESPN, ESPNU, ESPN2, as well as ESPN Plus, their digital platform. And so we work with every single media outlet that's global, like I said before, global, international, slash national, local, regionalized, it doesn't matter. We're focused on helping our properties maximize exposure and revenue. And the last thing I'll touch on here that continues to change and is in the news every day now is name, image, and likeness, which is where student athletes are going to be able to be compensated in some capacity in the near future. Congress and the NCAA are having conversations basically every day. There's going to be some votes that are going to be passed based on legislation here by state or through the NCAA jurisdiction soon. And so we're a major player in the name, image, and likeness business in the sense that we are going to help students monetize their name, image, and likeness. And so if a student who's a rower or a bowler or a field hockey player or a lacrosse player or a basketball player, football player, it doesn't matter, the name, image, and likeness rules are going to allow these student athletes to be able to make money and be compensated for them to basically become brand ambassadors. And so what CSMG is doing in the process here is that we've partnered with a company called Open Doors, who is a SaaS software technology partner that will allow a brand and or athlete to sign up for Open Doors through CSMG and be able to align themselves to make money with putting out messaging on behalf of that brand. And so what we've done is we've started to upload and integrate our 1,250 schools and all the student athletes that are engaged there, and we have millions of student athletes that we represent, onto the platform for once legislation is passed for the way that these kids can be able to make money, we're going to basically be at the forefront of name, image, and likeness. And so that's the major, major change that's coming in collegiate athletics right now, is that for the first time ever, these student athletes will be able to make money, and it won't just be the school making money off of them by getting these enormous TV rights or these enormous sponsorship packages and not being able to compensate the players. So there's a change in the paradigm and what's going on with the NCAA that's going to be announced here in the coming months, and CSMG is a player in the space. So just a high-level recap, the 3 things that we're focused on that are changing daily in intercollegiate athletics are esports, NIL, and media sponsorship and licensing all kind of coming together. And so I'll stop there if there are any questions, or I can certainly end the presentation.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Michael. Very informative. And it really does make a lot of sense to help students be developing their own brand and personality to set themselves up for the future. And I actually do a lot of work in financial literacy and wrote this book. And there's always the statistics around how athletes post playing years, they don't necessarily know how to make the transition into the business world. And firms like yours and others that are helping individuals and athletes set themselves up for a future in business is really important, because those, the bankruptcy and the financial rates of people beyond their pro years is often not very positive. So I think that's great that you're helping them set themselves up for the long-term future.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that's really important to us, is that we want to make sure that we're not only helping them through high school and intercollegiate, but that we're helping them after. Because
Yeah.
most of the properties we represent, it's very, very rare that these student athletes are going to become professional athletes.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get the diamond in the rough, or you'll get 2 or 3 of them out of the millions, but it's very rare that they'll make it to the next level. So we want to make sure we help them any way we can.
Yeah. And that really is the reality of it. A lot of them probably don't necessarily know that, or they might, have a dream otherwise, but of course not everyone can play pro, but they've got to be prepared in some way to go out into the business world if, if that doesn't happen, or if it does happen, and then what do they do after? So I think you're doing great work, and thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.